Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in again. And today is that time of the month where I show you the changes in my runes that after the rune removal. I've runed up a few new units as well, so I'll show you those as we go through the units. The units that I haven't really changed, I won't bother showing just to save some time. Alright, so let's get into it. Let's start with Megan. She hasn't changed, so I'm not going to show you her runes. She's basically the same as before. I think I only moved maybe one or two runes around because other units needed it, but overall it's basically just her speed. It's pretty much the same as before. Right, the speed is the only really important stat for her, and I only use her in PvP. Occasionally, when I need to bring a unit to tank a Leo with Will runes, right? So she's still on Swift Will. Konomiya, I believe some of his runes got moved initially to other units, and then I rebuilt him like with other runes. So I will show you his runes. These are his stats. I do use him, a fair bit in Guild Wars. Maybe not as much as other units, but he's still pretty commonly used. And yeah, so I'll show you his runes for now. Ideally I would put him on like a Nemesis or Will set, but I don't have enough runes to give him, or to get him to the speed that I want him to get him at. So I had to give him a broken set for now. Ariel has changed a little bit because some of his runes got moved around to other units, and then I had to give him like a couple of other spare runes to fill in the blanks. He's overall not really changed that much. He's only really like, I think he's like slightly slower, but overall he's pretty much the same as before. I occasionally use him in Guild Wars when I need a water unit that's like a healer, to heal when I use a Maida to tank a Perna. That's pretty much all I really use him for these days. Occasionally I fiddle with him on AD as well, but I don't think his stats are good enough for AD yet. Orion, he's changed only a little bit, and he basically just got a little bit faster. I didn't really change much in terms of runes, but he got like, I think at least one grindstone to increase his speed. Now he's 267 speed. I think he used to be about like 264 or something like that. Alright, the Renas have not really changed much. I think I shifted the runes around a little bit, but general idea is basically the same as before. They're on Will runes. This one's on Nemesis Will, and just like as tanky as possible, 100% resist. This one is the same, except I didn't have a Nemesis set to give her, so I just gave her Will Shield. And the same, like, rune her the same way as the other ones, as much HP as possible and max resist. Sigmara's got some changes because I had to move some of his runes around as well. Basically, he used to be on a guard set that gave him pretty good stats, but the guard runes I had to give to other people, so I gave him a blade set instead, and he's basically just tuned for, well, he's built specifically for dragons, so he's a little bit tankier than you would expect from a damage dealer, and he's on violent because I found that it's made my dragons runs more stable being on violent as opposed to, say, rage. And he works pretty well on these. Like, most of these are just like really spare runes, so I'm happy with the way he is now. And he's pretty good for wall boss too. He usually contributes to team 1, so he's good for that too. Galleon has not changed at all, or at least not this Galleon, so I'm just going to skip him. Fuel Mars has gotten really big change. Right, he used to be 113 speed, and now I've got him up to 121. Previously I was able to get him faster, right, but for the longest time I left him the way he was because I had a lot of units built around him. For example, Bella and Delphoy, in addition to Chasun, Tessarian, and even Brian. And because I had so many units that were built around him, I didn't really change his speed to go any higher, because I didn't want to readjust every other unit, because I didn't feel that like I wanted to put too many good runes on them, because they were already performing really well. But if you probably noticed, if you've been watching over the last month, I haven't been using the Bella Delphoid composition at all, because I've been kind of scarred due to them getting a lot of resistance, or resists, and like just failing things like seize or reset, and then losing because of that, right? So a lot of the time these days I'll use field mice with either Brian and Chasun, or Iona and Beta, right? Just to be ultra safe, and I just basically tank through the enemy field mice composition. But so since I'm not using Bella and Delphoid that much anymore, I only have to really build him around like a small, like a lesser pool of units, and therefore I checked to see that I could make the other units fast enough, especially my Chasun. The Chasun was the main issue, because before, like the fastest I could get her on triple HP Violent Nemesis was 216, so therefore field mice had to remain at 213 so that he moves after Chasun. But I'll show you Chasun's runes later, and I was able to change her to make her faster, and therefore field mice could also be faster. So the rest of his stats are fairly similar to before. I think he gained a little bit more attack, but he lost a little bit of crit damage. Overall his damage is about the same, but he's faster and about the same level of tankiness. Alright, so these are his runes now. And these are a lot of these are pretty good quality runes. Some of them I could change, like maybe, like say this slot 3. I would probably try to change the accuracy to say, or to HP instead. Not HP, maybe defense. But I'm not too concerned about that. I'll prefer to find an alternative rune to give to him, because this is only a 5-star rune. I want to give my main units 6-star runes where possible. Same idea with this one. This one gives me a lot of damage because it's got the attack and crit rate stats. Even though I'm losing 15 crit damage, this is the main area where he's losing crit damage from. But he gains a bit of attack from this, whereas before I think he didn't really have attack on slot 4. But he gains a lot of speed from this, so that's sort of the main reason I'm using this rune, even though it's only a 5-star. Hopefully I can find something similar in a 6-star version later on. And I think this rune's pretty decent, even though it's only a 5-star. It's got good stats all around, and yeah, this one is it's pretty good for the speed and crit damage substats. Okay, Purian has not changed at all, so I won't go through him. Stella also has not changed at all. The stats are exactly the same as before, except she might have just gained like a little bit extra stats from grindstones. I believe there were previously she had some runes that were ungrinded, and I managed to like find grindstones to fill those slots up. I think she only really gained HP and defense. Varad has not changed at all, so I won't go for him either. I currently only have him built as Despair still. I'm trying to find runes to make him violent, but I haven't had much luck yet. But I've said in the past that I wanted to build him violent and use him in PvP. Hopefully we'll try to get around to that when I can. This is Praha. Praha, I think she only got a slight change to make her a little bit tankier, so she gained a bit of defense I believe, and maybe a little bit of HP, but her speed is basically the same as before, and I use her mostly just for AD and occasionally on Guild Wars offense. Alright, this is Galleon number 2, and he got changed a fair bit. So previously I was trying to toy with a slower Galleon to make a slow AO, but it wasn't to my liking at the time. So I've rebuilt him to make him a tanky Galleon, And so he's got max accuracy, and he's got a HP rune slot 4. I'll show you the runes now. So the idea with this Galleon is I want to use him in PvE. So especially in HOH, the YOLO Galleon just dies too easily. So I wanted to make a Galleon that was as tanky as I could make him, and like pretty fast, so that he can also act as a spare Galleon in case my YOLO one dies during Guild Wars. And then he's tanky enough to hopefully survive in HOH. And I gave him max accuracy just because, you know, I could potentially give him more HP instead. But I want to make use of the accuracy rune, which had I believe it's got pretty good speed substat, 16 speed. So may as well make use of this. And yeah, so I'm going to test him out in the HOH, which is coming up this weekend, and see how he goes. Tor has not gotten any changes, so I'll skip him as well. Bastet, I've changed Bastet. I completely overhauled her runes. Right, so I've rebuilt her, and again, she's just specifically for raids. And I'm trying this new build, which is Vampire Revenge. Right, so because I got a lot of good vampire runes, which I don't really utilize that much. Right, a lot of these runes came from Ramagos. And I don't use Ramagos at all anymore. I found him a little bit hard to use, and in situations where I would use Ramagos, I could probably just use like other units. So I sort of de-rune him, and he's just holding spare runes. And I gave his good tanky vampire runes to Bastet, and also another unit which I'll show you later on. So you can see she's built crit damage. Right, so the idea is I'm trying to make her deal a bit of damage, because I don't need her to be super tanky in the front line, because I run 4 units in the front line. So I try to make her a bit of a hybrid, so that she's got good crit rate. Like I believe she's got 81 crit rate, and she's on the crit damage build. So with Hua Leader, she has max crit, and she has 1 attack rune, because I needed the defense rune to get her to a decent enough tankiness to survive in front. And she survives with these stats pretty well, and the vampire just helps her survive a bit better. I probably will try to change it to a different set if possible, depending on depending on the rune quality. Like preferably like something like Triple Revenge is probably the most ideal, or something like Rage Revenge, something like that. Even Double Blade Revenge would be fine, just to help give her more stats instead of having the life leech. Because I don't know how much, I wasn't really paying attention whether the life leech was helping her that much, because she's not an attack type monster. She's not going to do a huge amount of damage, plus she's not skilled up. So having vampire may not be the most efficient on her, but it just happens to be, you know, pretty good like good enough stats that I'm happy with. And I sort of giving it a go for at least this month, and see how you know, next time maybe I'll remake her again. Alright, this is my Samath. Samath I've changed, right? So previously he used to be on Swift runes, but I finally got together a despair set thanks to some enchanted gems. So I got him to 87% crit rate. Ideally he would be 100%. But I couldn't get him to 100% and fast enough to be to move first on my team, or at least on my AO. That's the most important thing. So I made it 85%, because that way he can at least crit the fire units, which is the main thing I need him to do. Usually I pair him up with either Tasha, Alicia, or Tor, and they can handle the non-fire units anyway. And yeah, he's on oops, sorry, wrong section. So he's on Despair Will. The will is so that I put him on AD. When I put him on AD, it protects him against resets, against people who don't have like buff removal on their AO. So if they try to outspeed me using Bernard or whatever, then at least I'm protected, right? So if they have Tiana, that's bad for me. But I like Will personally. The other set that can work with him is Nemesis, which I know some people use Nemesis on him because the way it will work is when he dies, right? He still gains the attack bar from Nemesis runes. So when he comes back, he'll do his Rageful Return, and then he'll also get his own turn to do Overwhelm at the same time. So as long as he doesn't get reset, then he can do that, which is quite nice. But if I do that, I'll probably be building him specifically for AD as opposed to AO. So at the moment, I'm using him on offense primarily, and then he just happens to be nice on defense as well on this build. And I've been really liking Despair. Despair's been helping me so much. Even just on his basic attack, he can remove Will runes with his first skill, and then he gets stun on the next hit. So often, if I encounter a full Will team, I don't bring buff removal on my offense. So I just sort of YOLO first skill someone, and sometimes I get lucky and remove the Will rune and stun them, which is quite nice. But even disregarding that, it's really nice with Rageful Return and also Overwhelm, because just like a single clutch stun on, say, a Praha can save you, especially if the Praha was fast enough to cut in with a heal, but you get stunned, and that's like it's a really big game changer on your AO. You probably still avoid those people, if you realize that they do cut in when you move, but if you just happen to come across one and you didn't remember or you didn't know, then at least it could save you in that sticky situation, especially during rush hour when you don't really, it's hard to follow sometimes who's changing what defense, and like who had what defense at the time when you first killed them. Alright, this is my Alicia, which I recently got, I believe like a week ago, and I've ruined her for speed AO. So she's sort of she's interchanged with Tashar and Tor, depending on what the opponent is running. So Alicia, I use it against really heavy fire teams, where like there's multiple fire units, because Tor's AoE is not as great as Alicia's, but Tor is better for single target burst damage. So in cases where I need to burst down, say, a Camilla, I bring Tor instead. But if there's no Camilla and there's like a lot of fire units like Perna, Chi Wu, that sort of thing, I bring Alicia. And she's on like Shield Blade Broken, just to get her the stats that I need. Right. So the first thing I always try to make sure is my Nuka has max crit rate. Like that's like my #1 priority. Max crit rate while being fast and also doing crit damage slot 4, right? And then as much attack as I possibly can, as I possibly can get. Shield is also sort of a nice thing to have anyway, just in case things like you don't necessarily kill everything and then you take some damage back. Shield can help be a buffer against that, but it's more for the slow comps. We're using multiple units with shield sets, but for now those substats help me reach like my goal of 100% crit rate and over 200 speed basically. Seek has not changed. I'm not going to go through him. Rauk has not gone any changes either. Chloe got some changes because previously I synced her to be 2 speeds slower than my Field Mars, so I basically resynced her to go after Field Mars again because Field Mars got faster, but I only changed 1 rune. I believe it's like, I think it's this one, something, yeah, one of these 2 runes. I'll just go through them real quick just in case you don't remember them, or you can't check it from the previous videos. And she's on Will Shield is like, this build is for Guild Wars offense, right? Because I want the Will Rune to protect against Orion, and I don't really need her to be that fast, so I don't need her to be on Swift. So I gave her a shield to give her a bit of additional, like, team utility. And the Endure runes are just because it's like a complete set, which is nice to give me more resistance and good stats to get her to the stats I need, which is or that I want at least, which is slightly slower than Fuel Mars, and fast enough to be a good healer in my Akroma Kuma team as well. Beretta, I believe some of his runes have been switched around before to other units, and therefore he's a bit slower than he used to be. He used to be super fast, but I didn't really need him to be super fast, of course. So I think like Samath got like 1 rune and another unit got another rune. So he's not quite as fast as he used to be, but I only need him to be used in tier 8 anyway, so it just so happens that I do have quite a few good speed to spare runes, so he happens to be pretty fast. And so I only really use him in tier 8. And I could potentially afford to give these runes to other units, but say like this rune is very hard to use on other units because it's just pure speed. But it's nice for a tier 8 unit because I don't really care about, you know, him being super tanky. It's nice for him to be tanky, but he's already tanky enough because he's on like double HP build already. And yeah, he's tanky enough for tier 8, so I just leave him as he is there. Spectra got, I think some of his runes got shifted again as well, and I sort of just rebuilt him a bit. I mean, at the moment he's not max crit rate, but it's because I haven't maxed his slot 4 rune, but he will have max crit rate, I believe, once I max his rune. I rebuilt him, and I gave him runes just in case I wanted to try him out in Dragons, which I'm not currently using him in, but it's there just in case, and therefore having the max crit rate is nice so that he's always going to crit on the Dragon boss. So you can see this is not maxed yet. But I do occasionally use him when I manual tier 8 hard, so it was important for me to at least give him some runes, you know, like decent runes so that I can use him for that. And it's really easy to make him really fast because his base speed is insane. So that's why I managed to get him to 286 speed. Alright, this is my Verd. Verd's runes changed a bit because I think I had to shift runes around again. I did a lot of like shifting around of runes. It took me like a few hours to actually finish my rune removal, or at least the majority of it. By then it was already like 5 AM and I had to go to bed. But yeah, I built him just for dragons basically, and also you know, he's tanky or semi-tanky, just so that I can use him in HOH as well. Because the plan I have is to use him as the leader, obviously, so that he's got the speed bonus, and he's providing attack bar boost to my team, right? And then I'm bringing other tanky units, so that like tanky DPS, so that hopefully I can auto it without having to bring a reviver. And therefore I needed Verd to be tanky for that purpose, or at least like a decent amount of HP. And he's got quite a bit of defense as well from substats. Alright, Arnold, I believe some of his runes got shifted around as well. I very rarely use him in Guild Wars, but occasionally I do when I need to tank like a primarily win DPS YOLO team. Like say Galleon Bernard, Lagmon or something like that. So these are his runes. This is shield, like the will is to protect him against Galleon on turn 1, right? If they time to loot. And this rune's not maxed yet. I need to get around to doing that. And shield is nice as like a buffer turn 1, because you know those YOLO teams, they're trying to do as much damage as they can to snipe you turn 1. But if everyone's protected by will and shield runes, then it's a lot harder for them to kill you, and therefore you can return fire with things like extortion and, you know, trick of fire if you have Kuma or whatever unit you bring. Like whatever tanky unit you bring, you just use the, like, you know, your bruiser type abilities, and you just make him as tanky as possible with good defense. Hua has, I think, only like 1 or 2 runes changed. I think only 1 rune changed really. The only rule change I made her is, I believe I made her slightly tankier. Like it's only very slightly. I was trying to make it so that my team's a bit more safer in raids, but not much has really changed about her. She's still fairly similar to before. I'm still trying to find some grindstones to finish grinding up her runes though. Brandia, I don't think I showed this last month because I did change her midway through the month. I bought a rune removal pack, and now I rebuilt her just for AD. I was trying to test her out to sort of see if I can make use of her leader skill, which is 44% HP to arena monsters. And she also, on Nemesis runes, I believe she does interrupt using this ability, which is gives a shield to your allies and weakens the opponent's attack power. I'm not sure if it's that successful because I couldn't see anyone hit me on camera, so I couldn't, you know, see whether it was good enough. But this is the build that she's on, Nemesis Will. So I'll try to make it as fast as I can while still being decently tanky. So things like, say, like if you put her with like a bunch of water units, people think, oh, maybe I can double Lucian this. But then she should cut in and give you a shield, reduce the attack power of the second Lucian, while still giving the rest of your team like a good HP buffer as well, just from the leader skill. So she doesn't do any damage. Like this rune ideally would be a HP rune, but I only had a defense rune to give it to her at the time, so she had to use this one. It's actually decent anyway. It still gives you her 21% HP, so it's not that bad. But I try to change it to a HP one in the future if I still decide to use her. But defense is not something you would neglect anyway. It's nice against all those non-Lucian teams, like, you know, like the speed AO comps. It's quite nice against those. I don't believe my Colleen has changed much. She's still on Violent Revenge. Like I tried before using her on Triple Revenge or Double Revenge, and I didn't really like it that much. And I find that with Violent, she makes my team a lot more safer. So this is just her runes quickly. I think I only changed like maybe 1 or 2 runes. I believe she may have dropped a little bit of speed, but she gained HP. And I got her to 60% res, which is quite nice. She gets max res with the Praha lead or Tessarian lead. But with just like a DS lead, she still gets 90% resist, which is still quite nice. Shiwa has not changed, so I won't touch on her. Kuma changed a little bit. He gained more crit rate, so now he's at 85, which is I'm really happy with, because now he'll always crit win units. Previously, I believe he had a lot lower crit rate, and he was just sort of struggling to crit a lot. I think he only had like 60 something crit rate, so I'm quite happy that I've managed to bump him back up. And he's also a little bit faster than before. Actually, maybe a little bit too fast, because now my Monkey King is slower than him. So I need to try to make my Monkey King faster than my Kuma again. But I'm happy with Kuma's speed, so I'm going to leave Kuma at the speed he's currently at. Eventually maybe try to get him even faster, but of course I would need to make my Monkey King a bit faster for that purpose, because the Monkey King is my defense breaker. Like, I would need him to defense break, and then Kuma can follow up. But these are his runes, and he's still on Violent Destroy. I believe I changed this last month, and I really liked it. I found it pretty good in Guild Wars. Like, I mean, it's nice to have revenge as well, instead as well, or even will. Both of them are still nice. But I wanted to make use of my destroy runes, and it actually kind of helps my Akroma team because that team can struggle against things like Prahas. So having destroy means eventually I can wear them down, and she won't. Even if I can't land a heal block or silence on her. I can still at least get it down low enough so that it's eventually I can finish them off. Raki, a lot of her runes got moved to other units, and I had to rebuild her again. So I'll show you the runes. She's still on rage, and I haven't used her for a long time because I find it's very unsafe to bring her against Perna, just in case I can't kill them, or if they have will runes, I can't kill them. But I did build, I still kept her built just in case I needed to use her against Perna to kill them. Definitely against non-guardian guilds I can bring Raki a lot easier because their Pernas won't be as tanky and they're less likely to be on will. Even if they're on will, usually she can still one-shot them through the will runes because they won't have the substats compared to say like a guardian free player. Huahi's not changed, so I will just skip her as well. Tessarian, I've changed him to match or like to be slightly higher than Fuel Martin's speed. So you can see, or if you remember, Fuel Martin's at 121, and now Tessarian's at 122. So these are his runes. So of course I just made him as tanky as I could while maintaining the speed I needed him to be at. And I try to give him a decent amount of accuracy as well, so that he's got pretty good accuracy, 65%, just to help him land Oblivion and Armor Break. Relka's not changed, so I won't show him. Lisa, I changed like one rune, and that's the slot 2 rune. She used to have a speed rune, and I decided to give her defense because previously I found she was dying like a sort of decent amount, right? And so I wanted to make it safer to bring her in front line. So I swapped the speed back to defense, and this rune is still pretty good because it's got 18 speed after the grindstones. So she didn't really lose like as much as you would think. She lost about 21 speed as opposed to losing the whole like 39, which she used to have a 5-star rune. So losing 21 speed is not so bad, like to gain 63% defense, right? Because now she's super tanky and she survives pretty well. She's like before she was probably like the most likely to die first. Now she's probably, well, she's definitely not the most likely. Usually Colleen or maybe Diaz will die before she does. This is my Rakuni. The runes have changed only a little bit, I think, because I had to rebuild them a bit. So I'll just show them real quick. He's mostly used for the Kuma build, team, and I bring that in against Sierra teams when they're using a lot of debuffers like Orion. And I think when I want to remove things like heal block, that's when I bring him in. Alright, Bulldozer. I've showed Bulldozer's runes yesterday in his own spotlight, so I won't go through him. You can check out his runes there. I've talked about him in huge detail there, so just to save time. This video is already running quite long, so I'm just gonna skip him. Shannon, I rebuilt her a bit because I think I had to move some runes around. So these just are her runes. These are sort of more leftover runes. After I was done with like Varad and stuff like that, and Aria. But I kept her built because occasionally I need a defense buffer in TOA hard. When I can't take it without a defense buffer, I bring her to help last through the stage. For example, a good stage I might consider bringing her in is the double Chroma TOA hard floor, depending on how high up they are. This is Bernard. Bernard has not changed at all. I still haven't found an upgrade for him, so I'm still trying to grind for that. Delphoy, I've rebuilt as I said before, I don't really use Delphoid much anymore, but I wanted to keep her built just in case I wanted to use her. But she's now no longer on Violent, she's on Swift Will. And just to get her to the speed that I need her to be at, to match Field Mars in speed, because I don't have enough Violent runes to go around. So especially because there's like a lot of new units now that I'm trying to rune up to get them to be on Violent and make them faster. For example, Konomiya and the Rakuni, they're quite new Violent users that I have. And I wanted them to be, utilizing the better Violent runes, or at least I didn't want to give them too many really bad scraps. Alright, so Lucian has not changed, I believe. I think he might have gained a little bit of speed from Grindstones, but so now he's at a really nice speed, 220. He doesn't get interrupted. Brian, I changed him a little bit. So now I believe he's faster than he used to be. I think I gave up actually I didn't really give up anything for the speed, so he's relatively the same in terms of tankiness, but just like faster, so that he's still after Field Mars, but fast enough to hit most other things before they get to move. So for example, if my Field Mars does triple crush, defense breaks something but doesn't quite kill them yet, then Brian usually will like finish it off. Like usually it's an enemy Field Mars. I may not pop the Endure after triple crush, but with Brian's second skill, it will usually get him finish off the rest of the health to pop the Endure. Ameda has not changed, so I won't go through Ameda. Orochi, he's changed in that I took him off Violent to give his Violent runes to other units. Now he's just on a bunch of broken sets, and to be honest, I actually took him out of my Giant Speed 10 team. I found out that when I was using him, I occasionally failed. So I tried taking him out for Bernard, and the speed for the run is relatively the same. But I haven't failed with that run yet, so I'm happy with that for now. I did keep him runed just in case I wanted to use him, to try again. And also for World Boss, I think he contributes to team 2 or 3 because he's a neutral unit, so he does decently. Alright, Chasun, here's another really big change. So she's a bit tankier than before. I think she gained about 2k health, and she gained like about 8 speed. Now she's like super fast, but she's lost Nemesis, right? She used to be on Violent Nemesis, and I still can only get her to 216 speed with Nemesis. So I swapped her to Endure because my Endure runes are better. Alright, unfortunately. And actually she gains some resist though from the Endure set. So previously she was about 40 something percent resist. I believe now she's more like 60 something percent, which is quite nice. And yeah, I made her fast enough to be quick, like faster than Field Mars. That's the most important thing. I think Chasun should always be faster than Field Mars. Copper still has never seen an upgrade. He's been the same for about half a year now. So he's like, yeah, still there, chilling. Katarina, I changed her a bit for her runes. Sorry, this. You can pause on the stats before, right? So I rebuilt her in case I wanted to use her. Because sometimes there's a lot of teams now these days that they don't really sort of build around defending against Katarina. So I wanted her to be built in case I wanted to use her, and I made her on Will so that because she's really slow, just in case I want to use her with another damage dealer plus like a buffer, then at least she won't get interrupted, and therefore I can also eventually build a Water Horus, I believe is the one, which doesn't buff immunity like Chloe does, but he does the Seek buff plus the invincibility. So if I use him, I need her to be on Will. So so that's where they're at the moment. Wuchi, I don't think his runes really changed much, but I only use him in TOA hard, so I think all that's really important are the stats, so I'll just leave it at that. Same idea with Mav, I only use him in TOA hard, so I won't really show the runes too deeply. But you can see the stats here. The only thing you really need to make sure of is put him on violent, and then make him fast, but make sure he's the slowest unit on the overall team for your TOA hard team. That way everyone can move and use all their nice godly abilities, and then he can help reduce the cooldowns straight after. The Monkey King, I think he got rebuilt a little bit. So some runes got shifted around. I believe he lost a bit of HP, but he gained some attack. Alright, so he hits a lot harder now, but he's not quite as tanky. That's the only downside. And he's still on Violent Destroy. So similar idea with Kuma. I still quite like him on Destroy, especially because it's nice with his passive. When he revenges someone, he can decrease their HP at the same time. Just gives him a bit of extra utility. So that's his runes for now. Immensity, I'm not sure if I'm not sure if I had him last month, but I did build him. I think it was pretty recent that I built him. So these are his stats. I tried to make him as fast as I could. Right, that's why he's on Swift, and this is so that he gets turn 1, right, and he can buff Copper. So you've probably seen me use him a lot in Guild Wars. That team I've been using quite a lot actually, and he's good because he gives Copper turn 1, and my Copper's ultra slow, so I can snipe something like a Beast Monk or even like a Praha, because typically Prahas won't be any faster than 250, right? So even a Copper can snipe the Praha with Immensity there. So I'm not so scared about buff removal anymore. Same thing with Bellas and stuff like that. If there's a Bella, that's the only buff remover, I can snipe that straight away. And I quite like this composition. I find that it's a lot better than the Randy team. So these days I'm using Immensity, Copper, Bulldozer, and it's been really fun so far. And I'll continue to use him a lot. This Lucian has not changed at all, I don't think. I think he gained a little bit of speed from Grindstones. Now he's very close to the other Lucian, which is at plus 117, right? So there's only one speed apart. Ardella, I've re-runed her because some of her vamp runes went to other units, but she's still on Vampire, just more leftover now. I don't really use Ardella at all. The only time I might use her is if I'm doing like speed R4. I would probably bring her in and take out something, maybe like DS or something like that, just to add more damage to the team and make it faster. Alright, this is the third Lucian. The third Lucian I changed, right, because some of the runes that he had before, he used to be on broken sets, but I had to move those to other units to rune them up. So I gave him like the third spare rage set. So that's why his speed's not very up to scratch yet. I need to upgrade his speed. So I'm looking for grindstones, like say this rune, because at the moment he's a bit too slow for the triple Lucian team. Sometimes things cut in between the the second Lucian and the third Lucian, because there's quite a big gap difference, right? It's like it's more than 10 speed difference. So hopefully I can close the gap a bit with at least one grindstone, and maybe I guess a future rune upgrade would be nice. But I only really use him for the triple Lucian team, so I'm not too concerned about him at this stage. It's good enough for my current purposes. Teshar has changed a little bit. I believe he's gained a lot more attack, and he's like he's fairly fast. I'm not sure if he's quite fast enough yet. Actually, I think he lost speed, because I think previously I made him faster, but he lost attack, and I didn't like it because he wasn't really one-shotting as many things as he used to. So I swapped him back mostly to what he used to be, which is like not quite fast enough to be to never get interrupted, but most of the time he won't get, like, things won't cut in. And of course he's gaining a fair bit of damage. So say this rune, if I can give him a speed rune, speed enchant, to replace the flat defense, then he'll be fast enough once I grind it up as well, and then he'll be fine. Alright, Bella. So similar to how I was talking about Delphoid, I changed Bella to make him still faster than my Field Mars, and good enough for Dragon's B10 healing. But I took him off will runes because I couldn't build him fast enough with will runes, so he's currently not on it, which is a little bit bad for the team that I run them with, which is like the Field Mars, Bella, Delphoid team. Ideally he would be on will for that, but I don't really use that team anymore, as I said, so it's okay that he's not, he's not on will yet. If I use him more on PvP again, then I'll put him back on will if I can find good enough runes for it. But he's gained a lot of accuracy from this as well, which is mostly just for Dragon's B10 to help him remove the dragon's immunity. Alright, Iona, she's gained some speed. Alright, I think her HP, I can't remember if it's the same or higher, but overall she's gained like a fair bit of stats, and just to make her like tanky enough to survive most coppers, and fast enough that she's not too slow when she's healing the team. Alright, so Esha has not changed, so I won't go through Esha, and Peng has not changed either. Akroma has not changed either. She's been the same for the longest time. Silver, I think I might have shifted a couple runes around, so I'll just show it real quick. He hasn't really gained much since I last showed him, I believe, except that I think he didn't have he had less enchants and grindstones. So now most of his runes are all grinded up. Actually, this rune is a new rune for him. It's a very nice chunky defense one. So I believe he's gained some defense, and the rest of his stats are fairly similar to before. Aria, I think her runes have changed, so I'll show her runes. This build is just for TOA hard, so she's tanky so that I can order with her, and she's on Despair to give her additional utility for stuns, because she does do an AoE, so it's nice for her to stun with that ability as well. And I don't really need her to be on Violent, so why waste Violent runes on her? Alright, so this is another overhaul. I'm not sure if I showed it on camera before, on a video before, but there was a time where I used to run him as a damage dealer, and that was for raids. Then I think a couple months ago I changed it back to like a speedy debuffer, and now I'm trying again as like a slightly different DPS build. So previously when I had him on as a DPS build, he didn't have any attack, so his first skill didn't really do much. But now I gave him an attack rune. As you can see, he's got plus 800 attack, so he does like a decent amount of damage with his first skill. He's still decently fast. Plus 50 speed is not too bad, so it's actually faster than most DS, I think. But he's got max crit rate with Hua's lead, and he's on a crit damage rune. So I'll show you his runes now. He's on Vampire Revenge, so same idea as Bastet. The Vampire runes is supposed to help him survive a bit better, right? So it sort of reduces the healing strain of the rest of your units. But I do find that if someone dies in my front line, it's like DS is probably one of the candidates, either DS or Colleen. So I might try to change him to make him slightly tankier, but still trying to maintain the damage stats if I can. As you can see, there's a attack rune slot 6 here. That's where he's getting the attack from. So far, I haven't really noticed that big of a difference. He does add to my damage, but he's also not debuffing as much, I believe, because he's not as fast as he used to be. Alright, so Veramos got some minor changes with his runes, but for the most part he's mostly the same as before. I sort of seldom use him apart from, say, TOA Hard Auto and Dragon's B10, so I don't need to give him super high quality runes. Eventually, if I can find good enough runes to put him on AD, I could sort of test him out on AD, try to find a comp that he can work with. But I'm not too concerned about putting him on AD. I have I have some decent units already for AD, and Veramos doesn't really help what I'm trying to achieve on my AD. So he's probably just going to be left as a PvE unit. Mantura, I've recently built. He's like my latest 6-star, and this is like the unit that I was trying to build around for TOA Hard. I've seen there were people who posted videos of using Mantura in Hall of Heroes, because the reason they use him is because, first off, he's a tanky unit, and secondly, he does pretty good damage on his abilities, does debuffs as well. I believe he does AoE slow and continuous damage as well. But the main thing is he is neutral to everything, right? Being a dark unit, he has no elemental disadvantages, so he's always going to do good damage to all the waves. He's got 2 AoEs, which is quite nice, which both scale off HP, so he can be tanky while doing decent damage. So I'm going to try him out in TOA, not TOA, in Hall of Heroes, and we'll see how he fares. Same idea with Basalt. I built a Basalt for Hall of Heroes, so I made him like decently fast and gave him a lot of defense to try to pump up his damage a bit and give him like decent, as much crit rate as I could. I would ideally have him on 100% crit rate, but I couldn't get enough like good runes to make him like that. Right, so he's on Violent because I want him to have more turns, right? So that, because he's Polar Raw, I need it for the defense buff, but it's only on 2 turn duration, and I believe the cooldown's on 4 turns. So having him on Violent helps keep it up on the team a lot longer. So it helps with survivability, and he's on defense runes to help his damage because his third ability scales off defense. I mean, ideally it would be crit damage, but if he doesn't have a lot of defense, then he's not going to do much. Like, he's not going to scale very well with the crit damage rune anyway. So I just ran him on double defense. I'm going to see how he goes with that. So this is my first Jultan, which I've showed in the previous videos. He has not changed at all. Like, I still pair him with Esha if I ever use them, but I may change him off the Violent setup for Guild Wars and change him back to change him to what the other 2 Jultans are built. And instead of using Jultan as my defense breaker, I might use, say, Darien or Jubel instead. But that's a project for next rune removal instead of this one. Alright, so this is my second Esha, which I've built as like a fun AD. I had the idea of trying it out as like an actual serious AD. I was trying to test it out, but it didn't quite turn out as it wasn't as good as I thought it would be. I thought it'd be pretty annoying because if you saw earlier just then, I have him at 59% resist, and that's so that he'll have max resist with Praha's leader. So my sort of thinking was that if I make him max resist, he'll be really annoying against bomb teams, and he's still really tanky. He's got like 49,000 HP, so he's still really tanky to reflect damage back against things that do AoE. So things like Sierra, even if she does the bomb and then she explodes it, she'll still AoE everyone with her like the normal damaging ability and reflect back on her, right? Assuming she crits. But the only problem is they have to crit to actually like take reflect damage, so it's mostly good against the speed wombo teams. So if they try to bring, say, like Azyros, I've heard people using my friend brought Azyros against me, and that did Fiery Breath. His auras died actually after like reflecting back, but his other units were managed to finish it off. But you know, it's sort of like a trolley AD, which actually keeps me in like high conqueror anyway. So it's good in that it helps me maintain like a decent rating, but I don't have to like I can tank a little bit of my rating so that I don't have to put too much time and energy farming glory points during the week. Before I go to better, this is my third Jultan, just to finish off the Jultan combination. This one doesn't have as much HP, but the same idea is max resist, right, with Praha lead, and as much HP as possible to reflect back. And all of them are on will runes to help. You know, it's nice for against the people who don't have Tiana. And the other idea is that with Praha, after the initial burst of AoE, assuming let's say they bring a double Lucian team, right? It sort of deters double Lucian in a way because they're kind of scared of the reflect. But if they do one amp, my Praha is supposed to live and then interrupt and heal up the Jultan so that, you know, suddenly I'm back to full health and they have to try to kill me again while taking reflect. So that's the third Jultan stats. And this is my lastly, this is my better. So these are better stats. Again, same idea as with Filmars and the other units that are sort of based around him. I changed her to be 2 speed slower because her base speed is quite high. If I make her 1 speed slower, she actually moves faster than my Filmars. So I want her to move straight after Filmars so that she can buff the immunity after Filmars has moved, and therefore my Filmars does not waste the immunity you know, during his own turn, right? So if Beta was faster, she'll buff immunity, which is nice, but my Filmars should be moving first against the teams that I bring him in against anyway. So and he's got will runes anyway, so I don't need her to be faster than Filmars. I need her to be slightly slower. So that's why her runes are set up this way. Same idea with Chloe, right? Both Chloe and Beta are designed to be like you know, for my teams to be moving after Filmars moves. Alright, so that's all my monsters and updates for this month. I mean, this video has gone on for quite a long time. I apologize, you know, if it's too long for you, but let me know if you prefer me to just take out the explanations and just show you the runes. If that's better for you, it will save me a lot of time as well. It reduce the video length, and maybe it's might be more convenient for the viewers. So let me know. You know, I appreciate the feedback if you have any. So that's it for me today. Thanks guys for watching. We'll have another Rune update next month again. So I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.